Okay, in this episode, we're going to be going over a theory that I have just came up with. I basically haven't really finalized my idea on this, and I just decided I have it figured out well enough that I could start making a video to start explaining it. So this will be the first time I actually fully in depth explain this or figure out what I'm actually just discovered here. And find this to be very important, a very important concept that people need to take note of and understand, as it can be the entire reason that somebody is going to completely misunderstand how God is all powerful and always exists, and what makes it so confusing. So, what I was realizing in my theory is how infinity can be divided in half, and why I propose this to be our reality. Here is my explanation on infinity. So we do know that the 8 is, or the sideways 8, is the representation of infinity. So let's just let that be the symbol of infinity. So we're trying to understand infinity. So what I was realizing is how you can divide infinity into half. It has potentially two sides and more than one side, which we should have been prepared for this complete mind trick, knowing how infinity, how, when you're going to deal with infinity, we should have known that there was going to be more to understanding it than just it being one explanation. So that's what makes it so confusing, is the way you can define and break down infinity is when you realize the different aspects and dynamics that it can be used and exist in, and its formats. There are different formations of the infinity, and the way that it can exist, and that's why it can be divided in half. So the two different ways that things can be infinite is one way or another, or both. So one way or another, something can be infinite, or both. So that gives it three different possibilities for something to be infinite. Both ways, on both sides of infinity, one side of infinity, or the other side of infinity. So now we need to understand, well, what are the two sides of infinity? There are two sides of infinity: to never begin, so if you're on that side, you're on that side. You're on that. You're a part of that part of infinity, which there are branches. So it's hard to be on that branch of never beginning, because there's only such a limited amount of occurrences of where it can exist like that, where something never begins. So Begin, I believe. I'm not a great speller. I really am not. So never begin, or to never end. So that's your two ways that infinity can be broken down to, or both. Never end. So what this means is it's the same thing, although they are different formats. They're in a different order. So what I was realizing is, okay, well, since God is on the side that it never began, that's the other side of infinity, that you can exist as being infinite. One, you can exist being infinite to of never began, but you could still be infinite and still begin to exist and still never end. It just depends if you never end. So that's the same with me and you. We could be infinite even though have a beginning, but it's just limited to and breaks down to if we never are to end or if we never die. So we could still potentially be infinite even though we began to exist, but it becomes more and more unprobabilistic and unlikely because as soon as we reach the point where we do end and we do die, we are no longer qualified on that aspect of being infinite. So we always fall short of, oh man, we're never, because that's what we strive for. We are like, man, I want to never end or I want to be able to always exist if it are to be safe and if it's going to be beneficial. Not everybody's the same. Not everybody wants to exist forever. But that doesn't mean that they may not change their mind if they find peace of mind and happiness with what they want to wake up to and have something to do. So that's the problem with never ending is finding things to do and having a purpose. And that's the problem of why we always end. We always end is because we never figure out any sort of purpose or any reason, or we have no way to understand, since we always have the point where we're going to reach where we begin to end. The only way we're going to be infinite is to never end. That's our only option. Now, other people don't have to always have the same option because it's relative to their experience, their perspective. And that's where we get onto the other side of existence. Okay? God. All right, we're opposite and equal. He balanced it. All right, so God is on this side. He never began. All right? So, and that goes both ways. Even though he never had a beginning, it doesn't mean that he can't reach a point where he never ends. It's just a matter of will he ever reach a point where he ever ends? Because it doesn't matter if you never have a beginning. The only thing that matters is if you're ever going to end. So what we've discovered is that even though he has no beginning, he has no end as well. And that's part of the reason how he was able to balance the equation to never end is because he never began. So that's what has to be revealed about infinity is only if there's a balance to the equation can it make sense. All right, so for us it cannot be balanced. We cannot have notice how we don't ever reach a point where, oh man, all of a sudden Superman is born and this guy is always going to exist, because we're on the other side. We began to exist. When you begin to exist, that's where you start experiencing the difficulty and the problem of ending. That's how he destroyed and defeated dying and not existing. The only way to balance and to make sure that you never exist or die off or end is if you never begin. It's the only way to balance it. So that's why he's always been protected and been dominant over this event of dying, because he never began. So when you never begin, the only thing stopping you from never ending is if you never end. So that's the thing. Any second he could end. No, nobody knows. Even him himself. That's his best guess. As far as he knows, he's never going to end. But that doesn't mean that he may not just randomly end. But that's his word. That's what the whole argument is like, why would I be worried about dying or ending when I've always existed? We're talking, so we're looking at a point of someone who has existed forever, and then you bring up a matter and a subject to him that's irrelevant. That's never crossed his mind. That's never been a problem for him. Why would that ever be a problem for him if he never began to exist? Since when was there ever a problem in being able to exist if you never began? So you never began to have that difficulty. That's what it means to never begin. He's never going to begin to have difficulty on stopping himself from dying or not existing, as far as that he knows of, as far as that we know of. It doesn't mean that it's still not possible that at some point he out of nowhere just ends and then everything doesn't exist. Because if that are to happen, then nothing's going to change that, and then that's all that's ever going to happen, and no one's ever going to... See, that's the thing. If he ends, no one's ever going to know, because it's going to be forever. It's never going to begin again. That's the point of never beginning, is because if it ever ends, it will never begin again, because that's the point of never beginning. I know, it's confusing. So what you people really need to understand is God had multiple options. It doesn't matter. Even if he began to exist, he still had the chance, just like you. You still have a chance of never ending, but you're very limited based on the amount of probability that you're given in what in all actuality is expected to happen. So in all actuality of what is expected to happen is it's just expected to just keep going on. That's just what's expected. Because it's never began. He never began to exist. Why do you think he's not worried about never ending? Because when you ask him, hey, what were you doing 100 quadrillion, bazillion years ago, that number is a tiny number compared to how long he's existed. All right, that's like a 0.0000000000000000000001% of how long he's existed, because there's no beginning. It doesn't matter what number you come up with, he's always been there. That's what you people don't understand, is you're trying to put him in a box, and he is not inside of a box. You cannot try to put things in a box if it is not inside a box, all right?